Welcome, folks, to Quebec, Montreal, Quebec, um, the province in Montreal, the city in Canada. Folks, it's been a long week. Welcome to tonight's round of the Mega Driver 86 INDYCAR Series. My name is Rish up here in the booth. Take you guys through the Canadian Indy Grand Prix here. Just myself tonight. No Derek, no Tristan. So we'll be bringing you guys the action from this 67-lap event. Qualifying just completed, and the drivers are getting ready to roll in just a moment. However, before we get rolling, we do want to take a moment to notice that it is Veterans Day here in the United States. Over in Canada, it is Remembrance Day. And with that, we want to send it over to Dustin Dewar, our very own Dustin Dewar here at the Elite Racing Network, for a little special song.
To all of our brave servicemen and servicewomen, past, current, and future, and to those that didn't make it home, thank you. You are true American heroes. If tomorrow all the things were gone I worked for all my life, and I'd have to start again with just my children and my wife, I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say, hey. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
All right, and we're back to live pictures here in Montreal. Apologies for that, folks. Miscommunication with the ground. Race is underway. Lap 1 just now complete. We're going to get you folks back into it. Unfortunately, not much I can do from up here in the booth. But thank you to Dustin Dewar, and of course, remembering, of course, veterans and thanking them for their service, as well as any active service members. Back to racing and what we really care about here. It's IndyCar racing in Montreal. And, well, you saw the graphic when we popped it up earlier on in the race. This is what the season looks like so far. It has been a show between Adriana Pinheiro and Joshua Chin this entire, this entire season. They've been going back and back, sharing punches here. And, well, tonight, the big storyline, Joshua Chin will not be racing. So for Adriana Pinheiro, you kind of see that as an opportunity, really, for anybody else in the series as well. You see this as a potential opportunity because right now you look at the live standings, and it is Alex Van de Sant, your defending series champion, who's actually leading the way here. He was your pole sitter, and what a fantastic start for him. Kevin Burrell actually running in the second position after starting second, and Adriana Pinheiro in third after starting third. This could be a really interesting battle. We saw how these three drove really well, in addition to Joshua Chin at Road America, as we have a car off just a little bit further back. Looks like Chad Frankenfield in the 6th. Might have just missed the chicane there, the final corner. But let's talk you guys through this racetrack here. It's a really exceptional layout and very fun to drive for a lot of these drivers. And there you see it on the top right-hand corner of your screen with a lot of the cars out on the racetrack right now. Turn 1 can be pretty tricky, easy to lock up a tire, and again, just a lot of chicanes, a lot of straight line speed as well, so really your focus so much is getting good exits to these corners, and we're going to see how drivers are able to fare with that. Of course, along with that, we're going to be talking about strategy and the way this race is going to play out. Typically at road courses, we expect things to stay green the entire way through. So we'll expect to see that here, but Montreal also kind of a merge between a street circuit and a purpose-built race course. It depends on really who you ask, but realistically what it means is that there are walls all lining the racetrack. Very few areas for runoff, so if you do make a mistake, hit a wall, it can suddenly cause a track blockage, so we'll keep an eye out on that as well. Meanwhile, back up front, this is the battle we're going to want to pay attention to. This is going to be, I think, exceptional battling here. Alex Van de Sant, again, it's been kind of not the season he's been hoping for. Is a little bit of a blink there from the one car, but as the defending series champion, you're expecting maybe a little bit more success. He's talked about it before with us in post-race interviews where it just hasn't been able to quite find that consistency that he's wanted, but today he's shown the pace in qualifying. We'll see if he'll have the consistency over 67 laps. What a great opportunity this is for Kevin Burrell, the only rookie in the field tonight. What can he accomplish, and can he potentially string an upset here? You have two guys who are proven winners in this series with Pinheiro and Van de Sant running first and third. Burrell looking to grab his first victory, could very well do so today. This is going to be a great battle to follow, especially because Burrell just put in the fastest lap of the race on that previous lap, just running lap 4 now of 67. Moving a little bit further back, the field relatively spread out here. Ryan Schold with about 2 seconds back to Victor Del Porto. Another 2 or so seconds back to Chad Frankenfield, and then 6 seconds back to Tiago Benedetti. Hunter Smith further 3 seconds. 1.6 to Marshall Stanley, and another about 1.5 to 2 seconds back to Mark Murphy. Murphy, a little surprising to see him down in the 10th position. Murphy right now runs 4th in the championship standings, has had a very solid season. We haven't talked about him too much in terms of the extreme highs, of course, that we've seen in the great battle that we have with Pinheiro and Chin. But Mark Murphy has been quietly fantastic all season long. We may be hoping to have a little bit better performance here on the road course, but he has some work to do to chase down Marshall Stanley. Meanwhile, up front, this is really the battle I think we're going to be spending most of our time focused on here as they sling around this great racetrack, and we'll ride on board here in just a little bit with one of these drivers to really show you guys just how great this Montreal track is. But yeah, it's going to be all about preserving mainly your push to pass. You want to keep that as a defensive tool or an offensive tool late into the race. Also, how's tire strategy going to play in? At these road courses, drivers are allowed 2 sets of tires, or 2 different compounds of tires, that is. The primary black sidewall tires that we actually see our top 3 drivers all starting this race on. And then they'll have the chance, they are actually forced at some point during this race to switch over to the red sidewalled alternate tires. So sometimes we've seen drivers prefer one over another. We'll see where these 3 fall on that spectrum. Because in theory, that red sidewall tire should be quicker, over the course of a lap. Generally, that's a softer compound. But we found sometimes the balance of the car can actually suit the primaries just a little bit better. So we'll keep an eye out for it. Also keep an eye out on battles further down the field, but right now you guys see it there on the left-hand side of your screen. It really is going to be a close battle here, very tight competition. If we look at that last lap, all 3 of these drivers within 0.2 of a second of each other in terms of lap time. Of course, remain within just over a second of each other on the racetrack. The question is, who's going to be the first to really blink, I think, and maybe try the push to pass or really try and make an aggressive move? As a bit of a blink there from Pinheiro as well. That's really going to be what it is. Right now, I think early on in the race, we're only, we haven't even hit 10% distance yet. These guys are mostly going to be focused on, all right, let's settle into a rhythm, find something that works for us, and then get rolling. But here we go. Kevin Burrell close to the gearbox of Van de Sant coming out of the hairpin, but you have to have such a good exit here. Doesn't quite look like he has that just yet down this back straightaway, but this is going to be one of your prime overtaking opportunities on this racetrack as you watch the drivers head over to the chicane. You can kind of get alongside here, make a move. Otherwise, you're going to want to, again, line yourself back up and set up a move for turn number 1. Not a chicane as tight as, of course, heading into the Wall of Champions, that final corner. But you kind of have this curve to the right, and sometimes you can easily lock up an inside tire heading into this corner. So keep an eye out for this. Right now, though, Burrell looked like he was attacking Van de Sant, almost fell back a little bit on those 2 straightaways into the clutches of Pinheiro. We'll see kind of how this balance shifts throughout this race. Looking back at past road course events that we've had, they've both been dominated by Joshua Chin, Mid-Ohio and Road America. Of course, Chin not in the field tonight, has been one of the talking points of this season. 4-time race winner in the 2022 B season. 2 of those getting done on the road courses, like I mentioned, one on the short oval at New Hampshire, and another as well on a short oval at Richmond. When it comes to the larger racetrack, it's been all about Adriano Pinheiro, Michigan, won the opening round of the season. Then at Nashville Super Speedway, kind of in between a little bit there of your short track and Super Speedway, but I believe they're running the Super Speedway package at that track. They are. And, of course, Homestead Miami Speedway. So road course, an opportunity for Pinheiro to extend his lead, currently 9 points over Chin. Or a chance to bring another driver potentially into this championship race. Remember, folks, we're just a few weeks away as well from the Indianapolis 500, so the championship picture is still relatively open in terms of what these drivers are able to, points that the drivers are able to earn. You look at someone like Alexander Van de Sant, who's 93 points out of the championship, currently leads the way. It might take a good chunk to get him back in, but he wins today. He has a good Indy 500 qualifying, a good Indy 500, and all of a sudden he could very much be in the picture when we head to WWT Raceway for the season finale. Strange to have the final race of the season being, just one race after the 500, so it kind of still stands as a bit of a wild card here in terms of the overall championship. But I'm sure as soon as the race is done here tonight, everybody in this field will be switching over to that Speedway package, and it will be practicing like crazy to get ready for that Indy 500. I mean, what an event that's been in years past, and it should be an incredible event once again this season. It's the 10th running, incredibly, of the Richmar Florist Indianapolis 500. It's crazy to think that that it's been around for as long as it has been, and crazy to think that I've been there for more or less every single one of those Indy 500s, whether that's as a driver or as a commentator, or even I think 1 or 2 seasons there as a viewer. So just incredible that this league has had the longevity that it's had, and looking forward to seeing another chapter of history in that particular event be written in just a few weeks' time, December 9th. So mark your calendars for that, and make sure you're subscribed to the Elite Racing Network. A little bit further back in the pack, Marshall Stanley, Hunter Smith, both close together on the racetrack now. Marshall Stanley currently working his way forward, up 4 positions from his starting spot, now sitting in 8th. Hunter Smith down 2 from his starting spot, so struggling maybe a little bit in the 17 car. In fact, on that last lap, it was only about a 1/10 of a second advantage to Stanley. But it looks like in general, Stanley's been just closing that gap on the 17. And we'll see if he can make a move here. We'll keep an eye out, of course, on that lead battle as well. Could have another battle with Ryan Schold and Victor Del Porto starting to form. Del Porto, another one of those drivers moving forward, up 3 spots. Ryan Schold up 2. It's a small field today. Just 11 cars currently running on the racetrack. I believe 13 took the start. Michael Hossack unfortunately got taken out in a turn 1 collision. Robert Smith went out a little bit earlier in this event. And Bill Colley then in 11th is the last remaining runner on the racetrack. About to go down one lap to the leaders in just a couple of corners or laps potentially here. It looks pretty close here. We'll see if this could potentially cause problems for our leaders. As Alex Van de Sant, there you see that car just in front of Bill Colley. Is he going to, make life easy for our leaders? He is. So hats off there to the 04 car. Not the start to the race that he was hoping for, but still a lot to play for, especially with a small field here. Guys make mistakes. We talked about the walls. You hit one of those walls, damage to your suspension, you're out of this race, and all of a sudden for someone like Bill Colley, if you keep your car on the racetrack, you keep yourself consistent, you can make up a ton of ground. So I'll keep an eye out on him as well, see what his finishing position is at the end of the night. A little bit of a lockup, though, heading into the hairpin. Have a nice and clean coming out as we see another lockup there from Del Porto and Schuld. And Frankenfield as well looks like he's ready to join on this battle. So we could have 2 three-way battles for 1, 2, 3 and for 4, 5, 6 coming up shortly on the racetrack, especially since things are starting to spread out just a little bit here up front. Alex Van de Sant now sits 0.7 of a second ahead of Kevin Burrell, who in turn is another 0.7 of a second ahead of Adriano Pinheiro. Meanwhile, Ryan Schuld about half a second ahead of Del Porto. Del Porto about 1.5 seconds ahead of Frankenfield, but Frankenfield's been staying in touch with these guys, staying relatively close to them, and could be competitive. Del Porto right here looks later on the... Schuld spins it around in contact between the two of them on the racetrack. That's huge there. So a mistake from Ryan Schuld, contact with Victor Del Porto, and the big winner from that could be Chad Frankenfield. What's the damage here on the 27 car? It's hard to see there. Doesn't look too significant, but for Ryan Schuld, it looks like it's day over. We'll head to the Whiskey Cast replay to take a look and see what on earth happened. Here it is, Ryan Schuld coming off the corner. Looks like he just gets on the power way too early, and it's strange how late in the corner that happens as we actually lose it behind the tree there. We'll go back, check the Whiskey Cast replay once again, but kind of surprising there. It's you'd expect to kind of be maybe not full throttle completely there, but you'd be more or less close to full coming off that corner there. And yeah, Ryan Schuld, there definitely was contact between those two cars. Schuld getting the worse off there, and ultimately that's ending his night. But Victor Del Porto still out on the racetrack. Nowhere really he could go, and the hope for him is, of course, that his car is still functioning perfectly fine. Seems to be right now, but it's also, again, opened the door now for Chad Frankenfield. So our third DNF already of the night in 12 laps, and that moves Bill Colley into the 10th position. Just 10 cars left running on the racetrack. Meanwhile, Kevin Burrell, Adriano Pinheiro, this battle starting to heat up right now. 0.4 of a second. They're both still about 0.6 behind Alex Van de Sant. But could we be seeing a little battle here for the second position starting to heat up between these two drivers? None of the top three have used their push to pass just yet. Neither has Victor Del Porto. Chad Frankenfield has used his twice. Marshall Stanley used his 3 times. Tiago Benedetti has used his once, and the rest of the field has not used theirs at all. So early stages in the race before guys are really trying to make those moves. But look at how close this is here. Coming off the hairpin. Oh, surely this is an opportunity now for Adriano Pinheiro. Maybe lost a little bit of ground, but with the slipstream, maybe with push to pass. Does he get on the button? No, he does not. This is where things get, tricky if you're, one of these drivers, because also for Pinheiro, it's not quite that easy, since Burrell is, of course, getting the draft from Alex Van de Sant in the lead. Folks, make sure you're voting in the poll below. Who do you think tonight's race winner will be? Unfortunately, options, I think we set this up before. We knew that Joshua Chin wasn't racing, so it did have Chin Pinheiro or other. But if you do specify other, which it looks like 40% of you have so far, let us know who you think has a shot. Obviously, Van de Sant, Burrell both look like fantastic options today, as right now they're running exceptionally well. You of course cannot count out Adriano Pinheiro in the long run, though. So we'll have to see as this race plays out. And it's interesting watching the momentum of this 52 car of Kevin Burrell, because at some points he gets very close to the one of Alex Van de Sant and is unable to make that move, and that kind of sends him back into the clutches of Adriano Pinheiro. And it's very much a seesaw motion there for Burrell. But here we go into the chicane towards the wall of champions. No one really getting too close to the wall there, not using all the racetrack up, at least not at this point in the race. And once again, Alex Van de Sant continues to lead. 13 laps now led in this race from pole. Going back towards the Del Porto Frankenfield battle hasn't quite materialized yet. Frankenfield still sits about 1.5 seconds behind Del Porto, so just probably out of being able to really benefit from the slipstream of the 27 car. And that's probably what's preventing them from staying too close together. Lap time-wise, they've been relatively close lap after lap. That last time by, Del Porto did extend his gap by about a 10th. But Frankenfield seems to be responding pretty well here, especially in the third sector. Seems to be where Frankenfield first and third sectors are really where Frankenfield seems to have a bit of an advantage. It's that second sector where Del Porto is kind of able to stretch out a bit of a lead there and protect himself down these back straightaways. Meanwhile, when we look at this top three, Burrell and Van de Sant both a little ways ahead of Pinheiro in the first sector. Though actually, this last time by, Pinheiro just beat both of them in that first sector as I say that. Sector 2 as well, Burrell and Van de Sant just slightly ahead of Pinheiro. But that last sector is where Adriano Pinheiro really comes alive. And I think we've seen that a couple of laps where that 56 car does look very competitive towards the end of the lap, but he's got to maybe find a little bit more pace in the first two sectors to set himself up better. This was a good Sector 1 this time by. This Sector 2 looks like, though, just a little ways off from, again, those top two drivers. And so in 3, he has all the work to do right now. Again, 0.6 of a second, such a hard gap to really close, and it's more Burrell close to Van de Sant ahead, 0.4 of a second, 0.3 of a second. But he runs out of racetrack there. As Burrell actually goes straight on and into pit road. So he's going for that undercut strategy as Pinheiro very close to the wall of champions there. But man, oh man. Here we see them heading into turn number 1 and 2. Kevin Burrell gonna take that long run down pit road. Find his spot. And so 16 laps complete there on the primary tires. Is that 16 laps on fuel that these guys are really looking to do, or is this a full-on strategy play by Kevin Burrell? Relatively quick stop as well, so not a ton of fuel. 8.2 seconds, actually. So that might be full tank of fuel, actually, for this 52 car. And for Burrell now, he's going to want to take full advantage of these now alternate sidewall tires that he's on. May not update that on your screen, but timing and scoring shows the 52 on alternates. And I think I'm going to roll with what timing and scoring is saying, since sometimes maybe the graphics don't update here on iRacing. But the data seems to indicate that he's picked that softer sidewall, he's picked that softer compound, and he's going for lots of grip. Alex Van de Sant, meanwhile, your leader on the button, heading down the back straightaway, to me, has to imply that he, too, is going to try and respond to Kevin Burrell. With the battle as close as it has been, you kind of have to be quick to respond, but no. Van de Sant and Pinheiro both making the call to stay out. A little bit surprising there. I wonder if maybe they don't quite believe in the power of the undercut here, if it may be a race where you want to go long. We'll see how this strategy plays out, but I like this for Kevin Burrell, trying to force the hand of the two drivers he's been racing with all race long so far. And he's done it in such a way that he's got clean air. 6 seconds up the road is Chad Frankenfield. So long way there. And, well, we'll take a look. These last couple sectors, that last sector right there, 34 flat. Half a second faster than Van de Sant and Pinheiro just in that sector alone. You've got to respond if you're the 1 or the 56. I mean, this is crazy pace right now from Burrell. And we've seen that it's kind of hard to overtake around here right now for these drivers. They've been so close on pace. So you're handing over this advantage to the 52 car. Why did they not respond that last lap? I'm curious about that. And if they don't respond this time by, is there potentially a strategy that they found that can they take one less stop off by running long on these? But this is going to be really intriguing. Half a second between the top two right now. Pinheiro and Van de Sant. Let's see what they decide to do this time by. Down the back straightaway again. It's another purple sector for Burrell in sector 1. He's booking it right now. Van de Sant stays out. Pinheiro stays out. What are you guys doing? Burrell, fastest sector 2 as well. And looks like he's set to throw down an absolutely incredible lap time. Half a second faster in sector 1. 0.3 of a second faster in sector 2. Last time around was half a second faster in sector 3. He's going to throw down an incredible time here. Kevin Burrell, what is his 52 car going to put on timing and scoring? It's a 22.7, or excuse me, yeah, 22.7. What a lap there. Purple, fastest lap of all, and a whopping 1.5 seconds faster than Van de Sant and Pinheiro. If you're these leaders, what are you doing right now? Obviously, they'll have some advantage, but track position has been really important in this battle so far. I don't know quite what the thought process is here, not coming down pit road, and this is really intriguing to me. You know, the fact that they have stayed out as long as they have, because they're going to relinquish. Ooh, as they get close together, they're heading into the hairpin very late on the brakes for Pinheiro, but I just don't know. I mean, you know that it's close between these two and Burrell. We know that Van de Sant can be quick on and off of pit road, which maybe gives him a little bit of a buffer, but Pinheiro, who's going for it now, into the final corner. What a move by the 56, but these two battling again. It's just playing into the hands of Kevin Burrell. But how about this? Van de Sant finally relinquishes the lead. Adriano Pinheiro leads the way here as we tick over to lap number 19, and it's all kicking off right here in Montreal. Kevin Burrell trying an alternate strategy, trying to see, you know, what he can do to close the gap to these guys in front. Not quite as quick this past lap. He really put a lot on the table for that first lap out, as Frankenfield is now on pit road as well. But the gap is now 20 seconds, and we look at about 35 seconds on and off of pit road. Kevin Burrell will be a couple of seconds ahead of these guys when they all rotate through. The question, of course, is it just a completely different approach to this race? Is Burrell going flat out all the way to the end of this one? Are these guys conserving right now by battling the way they were, though? Again, playing more into the hands of the 52 car, and I just worry for the sakes of the 56 and the 1 if they potentially missed an opportunity here to keep this race close with the 52. Of course, we won't know until, block up for Pinheiro. We won't know until they shuffle through on and off of pit road. But Burrell came down pit road, lap 15. We're now running lap number 19. I wonder if now is the chance for Van de Sant and Pinheiro to make that stop. And Pinheiro, once he's been cleared of Van de Sant, has just absolutely stretched clear. Now 0.8 of a second. So late in this run, 56 car, it clearly was holding something back early on and is taking full advantage right now of the pace that he has. So Pinheiro sets a personal best lap time on that previous lap as well, as he continues to extend away Still slower than Kevin Burrell, but a little bit closer now, that 56 car. Great late run pace, actually. 23.7 as Van de Sant locks up as well into that final hairpin. 23.7 versus Kevin Burrell's 23.5. Meanwhile, Van de Sant 24.3. That one car, you've got to be on pit road, man. I know he can be quick on and off of pit road, but I don't know if this is going to work, and he stays out for another lap. Unless this is a 2-stop while Burrell is on a 3-stop, in which case then obviously this will work out, and we're getting close to maybe being in that 2-stop territory here if these guys are able to stretch it out for 1 or 2 more laps. So potentially Burrell trying to force the issue, force everybody onto his strategy, and Van de Sant and Pinheiro not falling for that. But a number of other drivers as well. Also going on this this kind of all-out strategy of a potential 3-stop here. So I think that maybe the race we're looking at here is it going to be 3 stops for Kevin Burrell and 2 for Pinheiro and Van de Sant? In which case Kevin Burrell is going to have to make up a 19-second gap right now to Alex Van de Sant, a 21-second gap to Adriano Pinheiro in front. And that last time by, it looks like he burned through those alternates pretty quickly because he actually ran slower than both Van de Sant and Pinheiro. Finally, Pinheiro on pit road. Van de Sant continues to stay out. So here's the blend that, of course, we're all interested in finding out about. With 56 car sitting there on pit road. Kevin Burrell should get that position relatively easily. Of course, the question is, what is the gap going to be once Pinheiro's back out on track? Maybe not as big as you might be hoping if you're a Kevin Burrell fan. Right now looks to be about 2 seconds. You expect Pinheiro could close that back up relatively quickly with the fresher tires. The question, of course, will be can he make that overtake? But yeah, I mean, if Burrell is running 1 extra stop, then that's definitely not what you want to see in your mirrors. Is that 56 car? Van de Sant continues to throw down impressive lap times here on these old tires. That's really quite interesting right now. Pinheiro looked solid on his first lap out. He is running on the primary tires, though, so he's picked to go primary. Burrell, remember, did primary alternate on his first 2 stints. Van de Sant, of course, has not pitted yet, but on that previous lap was, without a doubt, the fastest of the 3 of them. So it's crazy the way this momentum has shifted between this group of drivers. We saw Burrell maybe look like he made the right move, and I certainly thought so. Pitting early and gaining advantage on these guys in clean air, not having to worry about battling in a pack and trying to make that pass on pit road. Then you saw Adriano Pinheiro with that spectacular dive past Alex Van de Sant as Van de Sant finally hits pit road. And Pinheiro getting that advantage. And now with clean air again, Van de Sant has been absolutely flying. And once again, it's going to be so close once all of these 3 drivers merge back out together on the field. Here we go. Burrell, Pinheiro right now separated by 1 second on the racetrack. That last in Sector 2. Pinheiro about 0.2 of a second faster than Burrell. And here looks like should be a big advantage for Pinheiro as well in the third sector, 34.4 to 34.5. Van de Sant rolls off pit road. Where is he going to be behind these two? Right now, 1 to 1 second behind Pinheiro, and it's so we flipped the order a little bit. Burrell goes to the front. Van de Sant comes out third. Pinheiro in second. We've just done a quick little shuffle there of this top three, but they're all still right next to each other on the racetrack, and back to it in terms of action. Running lap 24 now, 67. So here we go. There's that shot that's really defined the night tonight. Burrell, Pinheiro, and Van de Sant all right next to each other on the racetrack. It's been exceptional from these three to see their different approaches to that first stint. Again, Pinheiro looked like he was going to be the guy who had the long-term pace, and then got by Van de Sant. And then suddenly Van de Sant turned back on. Burrell with the shorter first stint, making up time and, of course, making up position as they go past Bill Colley. Goes a second lap down there. Tiago Benedetti running in 9th, also 1 lap down from our leaders. But yeah, just an incredible showing from these three right now. And as we watch this battle continue to play out at 25 laps in, let's roll you guys through the field. So here we go. We've talked about them so much tonight, starting with Kevin Burrell. Driver the number 52 rookie this season, has not had a win yet. It's really just been Chin and Pinheiro who have done this season, as we've talked about so many times before. But Kevin Burrell, what an opportunity this could be. The question, of course, right now is he on a 3-stop while the rest of the drivers he's fighting with are on 2 stops as Pinheiro looks to the inside. Doesn't quite make the move just yet, but Burrell, are his laps in the lead here only numbered because of a different strategy. Meanwhile, Adriano Pinheiro, he's been aggressive as of late, trying to make a move for the lead for the second time tonight. Stays in second for right now, but of course the man of the season so far. 9 points clear of championship rival Joshua Chin. Will go even further clear tonight with Joshua Chin not taking part. And for Pinheiro, he could pick up his 4th win of the season to match Chin. And in terms of win tally heading into the Indy 500, but I'm sure he wouldn't mind settling for a 2nd or 3rd if he really had to from a championship perspective. But we know Adriano Pinheiro, he's one of the quickest guys out there, and he's going to go and try and get that win if he can. And this season, it really looks like he can. Alex Van de Sant, it's been, again, quiet up to this point in the season. He's had some flashes, again, of the champion Alex Van de Sant that we've been so used to over the past year. But hasn't quite gotten that one car into victory lane. He was hoping to do so today. It'll be very interesting to see if he can overcome both Pinheiro and Burrell now as they've shuffled the order up front. But we'll keep following this battle here as the race plays on. Victor Del Porto now sits 25 seconds back of these leaders. They really are in an absolute tier of their own. But Del Porto has been quietly solid tonight. Also made 1 stop, made that first pit stop on lap 19. So almost went as far as Alex Van de Sant and Adriano Pinheiro. But potentially also running, he's kind of in the middle right now between that 3 and 2 stop. So that's where things get interesting for me as you look at Van de Sant and Pinheiro. They were able to really extend their stint out. Nobody came even close to their numbers. The next closest was, of course, Victor Del Porto on lap 19, as well as Marshall Stanley. But Yeah, we'll see how this one plays out. Meanwhile, Chad Frankenfield still within that 1.5-second bubble of Del Porto, and a lock up there from the 27, maybe giving Chad a chance. He's really kind of been around that gap. These two have been matching each other, kind of perfectly, lap after lap, pretty much since the start of this race here. So Frankenfield hoping he can maybe find some headway on Del Porto, as, we've got a battle going on here up front. It is between Pinheiro and Van de Sant. Van de Sant tried to make the move on Pinheiro. Pinheiro locks up, but stays ahead for now. But we'll head down this back straightaway, and another opportunity for Van de Sant, because Pinheiro definitely did not have the launch off the corner that he was hoping for. They're going to run out of track for now. Could this give Van de Sant another opportunity, though, heading into turn number 1? Aggressive on the curbs for the one car. I think that might hurt his launch, though, off of the final corner. And it does. Back to our rundown. Marshall Stanley, 8 seconds back from Chad Frankenfield. Again, kind of in a bit of no man's land as he's working on lapping a car here. But yeah, 13 of Marshall Stanley. Has had solid pace so far tonight. Again, relatively close with Chad Frankenfield in terms of recent lap pace. In fact, his overall best lap is much better than the 15 car of Chad Frankenfield's. But maybe lacking just overall consistency to keep up with that 15 car. We'll keep an eye out, though, on this gap. 7.6 seconds right now between Frankenfield and Stanley. Could potentially have another battle on our hands there for a top 5 position. We go back, though, to Hunter Smith in the 7th spot. 26 seconds back from Marshall Stanley. Very much in his own race right now. Haven't talked too much about him. Hasn't really probably seen too many other cars as Hunter Smith. Mark Murphy is up to 8th position. Again, he's had a solid, very good championship season so far. He's running well in the points, running 4th in the points. Hoping to pick up some good points again today as well, and by finishing 8th, he would certainly do so, benefiting from that small field, benefiting from those early DNFs. And the last car that we have on the lead lap, or excuse me, first lap down, is Tiago Benedetti, running in the 9th spot. 31 seconds back from Mark Murphy. Then it's a little ways back to Bill Cawley II, who's still running, though, on the racetrack, and right now has a top 10 spot more or less secured in this race, since I don't really think we have anybody else behind him running on the track, and we do not. So for Bill Cawley, just working on continuing to grind out those laps and hope for maybe some more misfortune for guys in front. Back to this battle for the lead. Kevin Burrell, 0.7 of a second up on Adriano Pinheiro, and actually for Van de Sant, he's dropped back quite some ways despite having the fresher tires, so that attacking move may have just heated up those tires a little bit too much. We saw how big that lockup was, and for Van de Sant now, maybe he has to just recoup, kind of settle back in, and then get rolling once again. Kevin Burrell on pit road. So here we go. This kind of seems to back up this 3-stop strategy that Burrell is committed to. And of course, the question now is everybody committed to this 3-stop? Or, I mean, Van de Sant, 23 laps on a stint. You start thinking he can make it, on a 2-stop race. And so, If you're Kevin Burrell, that's you've kind of locked yourself obviously into this position of doing a 3-stop with when you made that first one. But could this be a unfortunate 3rd place finish there for the 52 car? He comes out in 3rd, though, 5 seconds clear of Victor Del Porto. An incredible just gap that we have from this top group of cars. But now again, if you're Pinheiro and Van de Sant, have you been conserving? You already had that advantage. You can now go even longer on this set of tires and fuel. And I do think that they're going to be able to stretch out this 2-stop, which is hugely impressive. And again, for Burrell, it's a little unfortunate that it kind of takes out one of our competitors here. You know, in this race, just out of strategy, he's going to have to put in a monstrous stint. Right now, he's 20 seconds behind Pinheiro and Van de Sant, and he needs to close that gap. He needs to pass them both on the racetrack to make that 3-stopper work. A little bit further back in the pack, Victor Del Porto, Chad Frankenfield. We've talked about this battle potentially starting to brew here between these two. And it's kind of been waiting off for some time, but Chad Frankenfield, these past few laps, has been really closing in on the 27, and especially this last lap. It was a rough couple of mistakes there for Del Porto. We see another lockup. And it's given Frankenfield an opportunity here at least to look at this 27 car. The issue for Frankenfield, though, is he's used up already 9 of his push to passes here, as we're not quite yet at the halfway point in this event. Del Porto finally uses his first to defend from the 15, and Chad Frankenfield probably is going to be pretty conservative with that very last attempt for push the pass. And this really is for the best of the rest here, so you're going to want to make that move stick whenever you decide to go for it. But Frankenfield and Del Porto, this is very much a battle that we have going on now. Go Frankenfield again, getting close here on Del Porto. Meanwhile, Kevin Burrell goes fastest of all in Sector 2 on this most recent lap, but is still I mean, that last lap he was, you know, over a second faster than Pinheiro and Van de Sant. I just wonder for Burrell's sake if he's going to be able to close that gap at 17 seconds right now to Alex Van de Sant, which he's closed that gap down nicely, but he's got to close that gap down to effectively 0. Kevin Burrell, 123.4 that last time around to 124.2, 124.1 by Van de Sant and Pinheiro, respectively. Again, I mean, I think if you're Burrell, you've got to be taking, you know, a second to lap off throughout the entire run, really, and continuing to close that gap. I think he's having a better stint right now than his second stint started out, and I wonder if that's because he switched back to the primary tires. You know, could we potentially be also seeing that alternate tire, not the preferred tire, and Pinheiro and Van de Sant both yet to use that one? And could that swing a little bit more in the favor of Burrell again? For him, it's full-on qualifying laps, lap after lap. But here we go. How about this? A move by Chad Frankenfield trying to go around the outside of Del Porto. Isn't quite able to get the move done there, but it is very competitive right now for this 4th place position. Go on board here with Chad Frankenfield for a ride around Montreal, and here you see again that lockup from Del Porto. A lot of guys struggling with brakes today. We've seen that a ton. Where just lockups just about everywhere, and so I think it's just we're seeing everybody's running very aggressively. But one thing I do love about this racetrack in particular is a lot of those kind of medium speed chicanes that keep the curbs nice and flat, and you really can attack them, and it feels very good when you get the lines just right. Generally the curbs relatively low around here in Montreal, except for I think basically the last corner chicane, as well as I think there's one more a little bit earlier on the racetrack. But still, here we go, Chad Frankenfield, Del Porto in his sights, a little bit too far back this time by. Here we go, final corner. Get up towards the Wall of Champions. Again, guys given plenty of room there to the Wall of Champions final corner. Here we go, let's ride on board here, chasing down Victor Del Porto, a lap on board with Chad Frankenfield through turn 1. Again, a mistake there from the 27 car. Gonna mess up his run here coming out of turn 3, but not really enough room for the 15 to make a move. 4 and 5. Again, you can see that advantage, especially on the brakes. Frankenfield right now just a lot more confident on the brakes than Del Porto is. We've seen, again, because of those lockups, you're probably getting a little bit tentative in the cockpit of the 27 car. So Frankenfield a little bit early on the power there and has to collect it, and there's a huge opportunity potentially lost, because this is one of those straights that may actually be long enough to make a pass on. But now has to gather himself back up, and again heading down towards the hairpin to try and set him up for an overtaking opportunity on either the back straightaway or, of course, across the start-finish line. A lock-up for Del Porto and an opportunity here for Frankenfield now. Can he get... Man, the lockup, I think, came at such a great time of Del Porto, because it almost launched him off onto the straightaway after straightening him up. And there you see just that gap completely open up to Frankenfield. The 15 even had to check up a little bit as well in the braking zone just to avoid the 27. Late on the apex for the 15 through the chicane as well. Not quite going to have an opportunity this time by for Frankenfield, but there's a lap here around the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve on board with Chad Frankenfield. Looking back over to the battle for the lead and what that might look like here for these drivers. Just quickly reset the battle box there. It's 4 seconds between Pinheiro and Van de Sant. And then a further 16 seconds back to Kevin Burrell. Burrell, though, continues to chip away a little bit, especially at Van de Sant. Pinheiro starting to match what the 52 car can do right now on the racetrack. So it certainly looks like advantage Pinheiro. I still think advantage Van de Sant, then Burrell. I think this current running order that we see could be where it finishes, because it's just a huge task right now for Burrell to close that gap back up to Alex Van de Sant, which he's likely going to have to do here. Expect Pinheiro and Van de Sant not to have to pit until probably lap 40 or 45. Meanwhile, Burrell pitted lap 30. I mean, that's what you're talking about there is, eventually these guys are going to have to match up a little bit on strategy. Chad Frankenfield, after chasing down Del Porto, decides he's going to try it now on pit road. So he's going to head down, try and get the undercut, going to drop a spot to Marshall Stanley, which Stanley has been running exceptionally well recently as well. And he could be closing back in on this battle here for 4th to make that even more interesting too. But Frankenfield sitting on pit road. We switch back to Victor Del Porto, now 5.5 seconds clear of Marshall Stanley, who's moved up to 5th. And as things sit right now, the field is pretty spread out. Not too many battles going on right now. Of course, the strategy battle is the one that we're really following throughout tonight's event. Pinheiro just continues to extend that lead over Alex Van de Sande. It's been pretty impressive, 4 seconds now. And we're starting to kind of just see a divergence right now in the pace and probably consistency more than anything of these drivers. You know, we saw early on in the race how close they can be, and we've seen that before where really, you know, one lap pace-wise, these guys are incredibly close, and even over a short sprint event almost, they can be very close, but you run to these full-distance events, and that's kind of where the brilliance of Adriano Pinheiro maybe starts to set him apart just a little bit, is he's able to maintain that same pace for lap after lap after lap after lap after lap, and it's just unrelenting for fellow drivers to just try and compete with that. 23.3, I mean, that's a personal best lap time for Adriano Pinheiro on lap 39 of 67, having last pit almost 20 laps ago. So worn tires, primary tires, and Adriano Pinheiro is throwing down his best lap of the race, which is still about half a second off the best lap of the race by Kevin Burrell. But of course, Burrell, remember, did that on the alternate tires on a strategy that allows him to push a lot more. So, again, just continues to be hugely intriguing to watch. But speaking of fast laps here, Chad Frankenfield is on an absolute flyer. 22.9 in the first sector. That's half a second faster than Pinheiro. 25.3 in the second sector. A couple tenths faster than Pinheiro. Now we're going to see what can he do in the final sector. May even get a little bit of draft support heading towards the start-finish line. And what is this lap going to look like for Chad Frankenfield? Is it going to be an overall fastest lap of the race? It's going to be a big one. It's going to be a 22. It's going to be a 22.74, and it just faster than Kevin Burrell. 22.77 for Burrell, 22.74 for Frankenfield. And he now gets that purple lap time next to his name. Again, yet to see Pinheiro or Van de Sande. What can they do? I wouldn't be shocked if they don't go after that fast lap with that longer strategy that they're playing for. But hugely impressive from Chad Frankenfield and, of course, from Kevin Burrell anyways, to have that single lap pace. Now it's just a question of, you know, can they make it work for them in such a way that they can maintain that pace, or they can utilize that one lap advantage that they can have to try and get themselves some track position right now. Frankenfield, remember, battling Victor Del Porto for the 4th position once they all cycle through pit road. Oh, excuse me there. Actually, Chad Frankenfield completely missed this. And unfortunately, one of those aspects of having just one person in the booth. Frankenfield with an issue early on actually came down pit road again. May not have come down pit road again, but looks like he had a spin when he initially came off pit road, which explains the gap that right now he has, that he's working back towards Del Porto and Marshall Stanley. They all actually have pitted, and they're all back on the same strategy. Chad Frankenfield, though, just now trying to drive down these two, and there's that spin. So Frankenfield, 1 second up the road is Marshall Stanley. Further 5 seconds up the road is Victor Del Porto. So battle far from over, but something that he now has his work cut out for him after trying that undercut. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work out for the 15 car. Here we go. Burrell versus Pinheiro as Pinheiro comes off pit road ahead of Kevin Burrell. So despite 52, I think, still having to do one more stop, that should be close to the last one for Pinheiro. It'll be a long stint here for the 56. And Burrell still having one more to do. That's not great if you're the 52 car because, yeah, you still have one more trip down pit road. So now, again, your focus kind of shifts to Van de Sant. Can he make any move on Van de Sant? But it's still about 16 seconds. That gap has not closed for Kevin Burrell. And now Pinheiro, who finally puts on those red sidewall alternate tires, can show what he's got as he goes ridiculously quick in Sector 2. I'm sure he'll do again in Sector 3, and we could be on for an unbelievable fast lap here coming up from Adriano Pinheiro. In fact, let's ride on board here. Let's enjoy the sights and sounds on board Adriano Pinheiro as he goes for a fast lap attempt. First lap out on the alternate sidewall tires here with 25 laps to go in this Canadian Indy Grand Prix. Flying in Sector 1, pretty good in Sector 2. We're going to find out now. Is Adriano Pinheiro going to set the new fast lap for the race? He is, oh my God, and by some margin. Adriano Pinheiro, take a bow. A 1:21.89. That is a second faster, almost a full second faster than the next fastest lap of this race, the 22.7. that we talked from Chad Frankenfield. Unbelievable pace there, folks, and you just watched on board how it's done around this Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Adriano Pinheiro, what a lap, as he just continues to gap now Kevin Burrell, 5 seconds clear of the 52 car, who's now losing time even to Alex Van de Sant. Van de Sant, the last of the leaders to pit, 11 seconds back to Adriano Pinheiro. It's going to be, he's probably going to come out about 10 seconds or so behind the 56 car, and he's going to have all his work cut out as well. Meanwhile, Pinheiro looks like he's set up for another pretty solid lap here. Just went purple in Sector 1 again. Didn't improve much in Sector 2, but could still put down some incredible times here in Sector 3, though maybe not this time by, as he's working right now on lapping Hunter Smith. So Smith now goes down one lap. We have just 6 drivers left on the lead lap of this event. And that's probably going to hurt that lap there from Adriano Pinheiro. It's still a 1:22.5. So again, I mean, even if he put that lap down where he went side by side with Hunter Smith down the back straightaway, that would still be the fastest lap of the race. Just to put into perspective the pace that Adriano Pinheiro is carrying right now in this 56 car. Through Sector 1, he'll hit the timing line again, and this time no purple Sector 1. I think that might have been most of the performance used up on those alternate tires, and now it's settled in for the 23 laps to get to the end of this one for Pinheiro. Van de Zandt continues to stay out, again confirming that he will be able to finish this race with just one more stop. The question, of course, is can he short fill towards the end of this one for his final stop? You know, of course, has to just do less laps on the alternate tires. Could be dealing with just less wear in general. So this could be a great move here from Van de Zandt to give him an opportunity. But, of course, he's going to have to push like absolute crazy just to get back in touch with Adriano Pinheiro for the end of this race. Coming out of the hairpin here for Van de Zandt now. It's been incredible pace that we've been seeing here from the one car late in runs. He's put together personal best Sector 1 and Sector 2 on this lap. It does kind of feel like this could be an in-lap then from Van de Zandt, and it is. So there you go. That's just huge amount of pace there into the pit road. Slam on the brakes, get it down to speed. Looks like should be fine. And that would be an awful way to potentially lose it. But now, of course, you look back, Adriano Pinheiro already coming out of the final corner before Van de Zandt is even on pit or even in his box. Finally, he's stationary, but Pinheiro is already long gone. And again, we could be looking at probably about 10 seconds, 10, 15 seconds. He's going to be behind Burrell as well. What's that gap to Pinheiro, though? 12 seconds it is for Van de Zandt to try and catch Pinheiro. It's about 5 seconds up to Kevin Burrell, but Burrell, we are pretty sure, almost positive, that he's going to have to pit again. I don't think he could do 37 laps on a set of tires, or especially on a tank of fuel. So for Van de Zandt, the main number that you're looking at now is 12 seconds, 12.2 to Adriano Pinheiro up the road. And for Van de Zandt, this is now his opportunity to have some fun, like Pinheiro and Burrell both have already, and try and go for a fast lap. All right, so here we go for Van de Zandt. Hasn't really put together a purple sector yet. We'll see what this last sector looks like. It's a personal best, 34.05. But this will be his run now beginning to try and set a new fastest lap of the race. I think it's going to be tough to compete with just the ridiculous time that Adriano Pinheiro put on the board for everybody else to compete with. We're going to take a look here and see what can Van de Zandt do. A little bit of a slide there out of turn 6. 22.99. It's his personal best. And now Sector 2, 25.11, another personal best. Of course, the main question is going to be, what does that final sector look like? And time-wise, is it even in the same stratosphere as Adriano Pinheiro? Van de Zandt heading down the back straightaway. 2 more corners to go. Got to hit your marks perfectly. He slams on the curbs there. Almost looked like he had a little bit of rear locking, too. Kevin Burrell on pit road, so Van de Zandt will take back second position. That's a 22 flat, so he is very much in the same sphere as Adriano Pinheiro, 21.89 to a 22.0, 1/10 between the two of them. Both of them right there just absolutely eclipsing Kevin Burrell, and fortunately results-wise as well for Kevin Burrell. It is going to be Looks like a lock in third position with 19 laps to go. 52 car has a 30-second gap to try and get to Adriano Pinheiro, but has a 45-second buffer to fourth place Victor Del Porto. Speaking of Del Porto, has 2 seconds back to Marshall Stanley, who has another 1.5 seconds back to Frankenfield. Frankenfield, though, has one more stop to complete in this race, and that's going to take him more or less out of that battle for fourth place, too. So it's now between just Stanley and Del Porto, one would imagine. Though I don't know, 38, 37, potentially both of those drivers may need to come down pit road one more time as well. $18 to go. Let us know, folks watching at home, who do you think has a shot to grab this victory here? It looked like it could be up for debate early on in this event, but it's hard, certainly, I think, to bet against Adriano Pinheiro here early on in this one. And, well, the smart money certainly would seem to indicate that Adriano Pinheiro should win, because every time Joshua Chin isn't in the race, Pinheiro does win. And, of course, even head-to-head, Pinheiro does have one win versus Chin. So Del Porto, Stanley getting a little bit closer. Potentially both these drivers still need to come down pit road. Of course, keep an eye out for that. Meanwhile, up front, gap between Van de Sant and Pinheiro now down to 7 seconds. Reminder, it was 12 seconds when Van de Sant came off pit road. So opportunity potentially here for the one car. That last time by, Van de Sant only a 10th quicker, though. So has it more or less evened out now? We'll take a look here and see one lap later. But 7.5 seconds is suddenly a bit more achievable with 17 to go. Van de Sant closing up a little bit there through the final chicane. We have a 23.7 from Pinheiro and a 23.8 from Van de Sant. So actually net loss there for the one car lap in terms of gap, but yeah, down to 7.3, and he looks good through the corners. Again, maybe that tire advantage right there helping him out right now. Maybe not at the rate that he's hoping to close in. It seems to be, you know, especially braking, I think, seems to be an advantage for Van de Sant. Actually, let's have that flipped around a little bit, because I think it might actually be braking probably advantage Pinheiro, but then Van de Sant able to launch off corners pretty well. But it still comes out generally. Pretty even between the two of them. That gap, though, down to 5 seconds now, so potentially a mistake there from Pinheiro, a lockup. All of a sudden, big drop in gap there. Take a look and see if we can find what happened on the Whiskey Cast replay, because that was just kind of a sudden drop of 2 seconds for the 56 car. I believe we found it here. Take a look at what happened to Pinheiro. They're just a little bit too hot there into the chicane. Saves it, no spin or anything, but that's going to lose you time pretty quickly, and that's a quick corner. So now under 5 seconds with 15 laps to go. And potentially a small relatively small pace advantage to Alex Van de Sant. We could have a race on our hands here as the one car trying to chase down the 56 for the win of this one in the closing laps. Another lock up there from Pinheiro. And right now, it's just small mistakes right now from the driver in the number 56. It's opening the door for Alex Van de Sant. So I wonder, could we see a battle on our hands here in the near future? As here we go. Oh, a slide there. Oh, man. You get the feeling that Pinheiro is just pushing a little bit hard right now, and there you see the one car is suddenly in the picture. And again, on the last lap, 24.1 to a 23.4. Alex Van de Sant has to clear this lap traffic here pretty quickly. He does. Hunter Smith gets out of the way. 4.5 seconds now. If he's closing at half a second a lap, he's gonna have 5 seconds to try, or 5 laps to try and attack Adriano Pinheiro. But this is very intriguing with regards to the finish of this race. What do you think at home, folks? Can Alex Van de Sant chase down Adriano Pinheiro? Can he grab his first win of the season? He got the pole. He's been competitive all night long. And right now looks to be the fastest guy on the racetrack. Chasing down the race leader. 4.6 seconds right now, the gap. Pinheiro to Van de Sant. You can see the 56. That's also another motivator. You can see that car in front of you. It's not like there's an arbitrary gap that you're trying to work towards, but you have no idea where they are. You see that 56 in front, and all of a sudden you have that you get a little bit, you get a tenth more, because you're trying every single lap to close that reference. So this time Pinheiro does respond. 2 tenths faster than Van de Sant. Pinheiro on pit road. Shocking development here from the 56 car. Could he not make it to the end? It looked like he had enough. But something wrong there for the 56 of Adriano Pinheiro, and all of a sudden, it feels like this race has almost been handed over to Alex Van de Sant. I'm shocked at that one. Pinheiro 3.5 seconds ahead of Kevin Burrell, now moves to that 3 stop, and it's 17 seconds to Alex Van de Sant with 12 laps to go. I'm sorry, I don't think you're closing that gap to the 1 car, especially with how good the 1 car has been over a long stint, how consistent the 1 car has been over a long stint. What just happened there? What? Folks, this is a crazy night strategy-wise, and I for one am pretty shocked with just how it's played out from all 3 of our protagonists. You know, if a 2 stop was on the table at all, one would imagine you'd be going after it, especially not bailing from the 2 stop with just 12 to go. With the lead in your hand as well, and a solid advantage over second place. I mean, Pinheiro maybe might have been, you know, 1 lap out in terms of fuel, but that could have been something he could have saved, I would assume. But yeah, Adriano Pinheiro back out on the racetrack, fresh set of tires, enough fuel to take him to the end of this one, but a 16-second gap to overcome with 11 laps to go. He'll close that gap down all right, I'm sure of that. Question is, though, can he close it down enough? And for that one, I'm not quite convinced. Meanwhile, Marshall Stanley finally makes his 3rd pit stop of the night. I think we were pretty aware that that was coming. I would expect Victor Del Porto to do so as well in potentially the coming laps here. Del Porto last pitted lap 38. A 30-lap run to a 29-lap run there to finish this one out, which I think might just be a little bit out of touch for these drivers. Alex Van de Sant, pitted on lap number 46, can easily make it to the end of this one on fuel, on tires, as Hunter Smith comes down pit road from 7th. Pinheiro 21.64 that last lap. Of course, a massive lap, and he needs to be doing that, though. You know, every opportunity he gets. Issue, of course, again, 13 seconds still the gap to Van de Sant. Victor Del Porto. Here's the interesting blend that we're all paying attention to. Del Porto versus Frankenfield. Oh, it's close on the racetrack, but it's Del Porto right now. He'll have cold tires for a couple of corners, but then they become fresh tires, and suddenly that advantage swings back in his favor. So it looks like it should be relatively safe for now. P4 for Victor Del Porto. But we'll take a look and see whether or not he's able to keep that car on the racetrack. Runs it a little bit wide there as well. And that could just open the door a little bit for Frankenfield and Stanley late into this one. Again, following Pinheiro, 12.8 seconds now to Alex Van de Sant. Again, closed by a second and a half. He has the pace. It's just, he has the pace right now, but can you sustain that over the full course of this run? I just don't know. I'm just not totally convinced. Pinheiro sliding it through. Incredible running right now that we're seeing from the 56 car. Of course, this is, you know, an opportunity for him to just show off that pure pace that he's had all season and consistency that he has over a run. Again, last lap, another 22.7. I mean, his lap times are just ridiculous in terms of what he's able to run. And again, over a second faster than Van de Sant, but you're running out of laps here, it feels like. Barring kind of a mistake or a sudden drop-off from Van de Sant, but we've also seen Van de Sant look really strong at the end of runs. You know, so I'm not totally convinced that it's yeah, I just don't know. Meanwhile, battle here for 5th. Oh, and there's contact. There's a big crash. 15 car and the 13 collide as they go side by side into the wall of champions. And that's all happening in front of our leader, Alex Van de Sant. Wow. Van de Sant clears the issue, but what the heck happened there between these two, battling it out for 5th position? We haven't really seen much contact between drivers. It's been clean racing. It's been respectful racing. But what on earth happened here? Frankenfield looking to the outside of the 13. 13, I think, gets up on that curb and kind of blocks into that way. That's a tough corner to overtake on. I wonder what the steward's call is going to be regarding that incident, but it's damage on the 15 car, potentially damage as well on the 13. Yeah, there is a bit of side pod damage there. You can see it on the 13, kind of flapping about there. No wing on the 15. And they both keep running right now, and there could be more action between them. How intriguing here. Seems like generally consensus, even between the drivers, is it's a racing deal, but here we go. Marshall Stanley has to pit for that damage. And meanwhile, Chad Frankenfield stays out on the racetrack right now. We'll see if he's noticing really any drop in downforce with that missing front wing. But here we go. Adriano Pinheiro now has to get past Chad Frankenfield. With that gap now under 10 seconds, but again, I think he's just running out of laps. Last time by, 9/10 of a second faster. Actually, 8/10 of a second faster. Than Van de Sant. So that, again, the advantage that Pinheiro has right now is closing. And man. I would assume at this point, 6 to go, you're feeling pretty comfortable if you're Alex Van de Sant. You know, Adriano Pinheiro continuing to chase you down. But that gap is closing at a much slower rate here, 9.5 seconds, 5 to go. Van de Sant just needs to run, you know, 5 perfect laps, not really push that ridiculously hard either. Find his way to victory lane for the first time in a season. Go back and check the history books for the last time Van de Sant did win. It would have been last season, 2022A. So, I mean, we say it feels like it's been a while, but that's when you set the standard like he has as a back-to-back defending series champion. It was at the Iowa Corn 300. Back in June of 2022. He did, of course, also win at Watkins Glen prior to that in May. So he has a road course win in 22. Actually, there's 2 of them, winning at Long Beach as well earlier in that season. But yeah, hasn't quite been the season he's been hoping for so far in 2022B. But what a way to get things back on track late in the season. If he's able to pull off this win here in Canada, it's the most momentum you can carry really into, well, I was going to say the month of May, but it's kind of the month of December that we're going to be having qualifying, partially November, partially December. December 9th being, of course, 10th running of the Richmar Flores Indianapolis 500. But you carry that forward with you. You know, he is now going to be potentially the third different race winner we've had this season. And well, we'll expand the field quite some ways. We could see the return of Henry Bennett, of course, former two-time series champion, who Van de Sant had to defeat in his first season to earn his first championship. And yeah, could be a very interesting field for that one. Looking forward to bring you folks all the action from the month of May as it comes up. And then, of course, the season ending with the Warriors for Peace 500 at the Worldwide Technology Raceway. So a lot of points still on the table here. And with Alex Van de Sant, he'll close up a little bit on Adriano Pinheiro. He'll close up a good chunk, of course, on Joshua Chin. And suddenly, this championship battle could still be some ways open for all these drivers. Could be between Van de Sant, Chin, and Pinheiro heading down to the wire. Pinheiro will extend his championship lead at least over Joshua Chin. And so that'll certainly help him. So we switch to 3 laps to go, and the gap has suddenly opened back up. Adriano Pinheiro, mistake on this most recent lap, excuse me. It's going to drop him back a couple of seconds, and I think he's settling back in to realize that isn't quite going to happen. Kevin Burrell, 14 seconds further back from Pinheiro, and it's crazy to think that that this group of cars that was, separated by less than a second after the first stint of this race, after the first round of pit stops even, is now sitting here, 15 seconds apart from each other on the racetrack. It is just pretty incredible the way that this race and this strategy has played out for any of them. Ooh, whoa, Van de Sant with the spin, though, in turn number 1. He has an advantage, but that's the last thing you expect to be doing there on the final corner with 2 to go. It's going to shrink his advantage substantially to Pinheiro, but oh my gosh, it's a good thing he had that buffer, isn't it? This race just continues throwing curveballs at us, folks. Alex Van de Sant almost losing what looked to be an almost guaranteed race win. Now, we kind of got you're going to watch Van de Sant, and he's going to be very cognizant of it as well, as just, man, I cannot put a foot wrong, and potentially just a bit of pressure building up there, leading to that mistake heading out of the final corner. Again, gap now down to 6 seconds, but still pretty substantial over Adriano Pinheiro. Whew. Oh, man, folks, this has been it's been a heck of a race so far, hasn't it? Man, well, on the last lap, for Alex Van de Sant, you'd expect things will be, you'd normally expect with a 7-second gap things to be pretty straightforward, but he's going to want to be just a little bit cautious. But, I mean, what a run it has been for the one car, and what a race it's been, really. I think from a strategy perspective, from even a racing perspective, we've had a few good moves take place on the racetrack. But Alex Van der Sant, what a way to get back in victory lane. Pole position, and has just been exceptionally competitive all race long. It does potentially feel like maybe a little bit of this was handed to him in the sense that he was the only guy to make that two-stop work, but you can also look at it the other way and say that, well, heck, he was the only one to make the two-stop work. In fact, the only driver in the field to run a two-stop, and look at the advantage it gave him. I mean, you don't need, maybe that outright pace that Adriano Pinheiro had, because on two stops, an incredible run here. Alex Van der Sant back to victory lane here in 2022B. Unbelievable run here. Third different race winner this season. Adriano Pinheiro, maybe a little bit upset with how the race turned out, especially when you consider the pace, and if he could have done it on a two-stop, he might have just had a little bit of an edge over Van der Sant, but from a championship perspective, cannot be upset with that run either. Kevin Burrell going to cross the line to finish in the third spot, ahead of Victor Del Porto and Chad Frankenfield. Frankenfield done for the day. Del Porto still has some ways to go in this race. I think he's the last car left running, so he'll complete that. Mark Murphy and Victor Del Porto will both complete their runs, but it's going to be victory celebrations for Alexander Van der Sant. We'll wait to speak with him in victory lane. Adriano Pinheiro as well comes to a halt. And we'll get a chance to speak with our top three finishers. There you see the results on the left-hand side of your screen. Alex Van der Sant, Adriano Pinheiro, Kevin Burrell, Victor Del Porto, Chad Frankenfield, Hunter Smith, Mark Murphy, Marshall Stanley, Bill Cawley II, Tiago Benedetti. Those are your drivers who are classified. Ryan Schold, Robert Smith, Michael Hossack, all of them non-finishers, and Michael Clean is our off-track official for tonight. Del Porto finishes his race. And now we'll head over and check out our final results for tonight's event. If we're able to get the graphic, of course, to show up here, folks. Always tends to take a little second to get everything to work out just perfectly. And there you see it for the Canadian Indy Grand Prix. And, let's talk to our driver in victory lane, back to victory lane in 2022B, Alex Van der Sant. Great run you had there. Only one to make the two-stop work, so, I mean, hugely impressive fuel saving there. I mean, how tough was it to really stay on that? It seemed like nobody else was really able to pull off that two-stop.
It was a hard number to hit, and I actually, at the end, ran out across the line again. I was on fumes coming into the pits both times, so I had to be pretty much perfect. Getting pole there was really important because I was able to keep those guys behind me, even with the lower pace. So it was cool. I enjoy fuel saving. It's a fun challenge, so glad to have an opportunity to make it work and get a win from it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was intriguing to watch that battle up from the booth here, especially when Kevin, I think, early committed to the three-stopper. It kind of looked like you and Adriano would both be on a two-stopper, but then with just, I think, 12 or 13 laps to go, Adriano also bailing out of the two-stop. Did that surprise you at all, or did you figure with how tight you were, there was no chance he could make it to the end?
It did surprise me when he went longer. I had assumed for a while that he was going to be on the same strategy as me, especially like when he was ahead of me. I was like, oh shoot, I let him by for nothing. But I guess he was just trying to extend and minimize the time on the reds. But by the end of the race, the track had cooled off enough that the reds were viable and probably faster than the primes anyway. So it didn't quite work out for him. I guess they just didn't see that the two-stop could work. I frankly wasn't sure until we got going in the race and saw that I was on pace with these guys, and they didn't really get around me until the end of the first run. So, Yeah,
well, I mean, I said when I brought you in, back to victory lane. What's this season been like? I know it's been frustrating at times, but to be back in victory lane, especially at maybe one of the most crucial points in the season with the Indy 500 coming up, ton of points still on the table. You're certainly far from being out of it here. How does this feel in terms of momentum for you heading into the final 2 races of the season?
Pretty good. It'll solidify me in a good position for Indy. Adriano and Josh Chin are still pretty far away. I guess I almost blew a 70-point lead in the finale last season, so I guess anything can happen. I guess my goal is just to stay close, do well at Indy, and then see what's on the table for Gateway.
Absolutely. I mean, impressive run nonetheless here tonight. Great to talk to you back in victory lane. And finally, we have a third race winner here in the 2022B season. So congratulations, man. Want to give you the chance to, of course, make shout-outs while we have you here on the air.
Big thanks as always to everybody at Powerslide Motorsports and 4D Sim Racing.
Alrighty, Alex Van de Sant, back to victory lane, 2-time defending series champion. Could he go for 3? Alex, congratulations again, man, on the race win tonight. Looking forward to speaking with you again in the future.
Thanks, Rish.
All right, that was your race winner. We'll wait to see if we hear at all from our second and third place finishers, but let's take a quick review of that race. It really was kind of a race dominated by strategy discussions that we were having up here in the booth, and Van de Sant, the only one in the field to make that 2-stopper work. He mentioned how tight it was running on fumes at the end of that event, so with Pinheiro having pitted 1 or 2 laps earlier on each of those stints, it kind of makes sense that he never really had a real shot at making it to the end there, but certainly built some suspense up until about 10 to 15 laps to go there. Kevin Burrell, early committer to the 3-stopper, just wasn't quite able to compete pace-wise with Pinheiro, and I wonder if even that late stop by Pinheiro just gave him a little bit more of an edge over Burrell, and just great pace from the 56 car nonetheless. Not quite sure we are going to hear from any of our others in the top 3, but at least got the chance to speak with Alex Van de Sant. Great to see him back in victory lane, though, for sure. He's been a staple of this series for a long time, of course, breaking through 2 seasons ago with that first championship, and since then being almost unstoppable. Wonder what this looks like for the points situation. We'll see that get updated. Of course, if you folks are watching at home, it does take some time, of course, to tally all the points, make sure all the bonus points are correct. So make sure you're following at Elite Racing _ on Twitter. That's where you'll get the latest updates with the points situation. With that, though, I think we're gonna tune off here from Montreal. It's been an exceptional race tonight. Third different winner here in the 2022B season, and we kick off the month of December. Really, in terms of setting up for the Indianapolis 500. So make sure you folks are tuned in at home. Make sure you're subscribed to the Elite Racing Network, which is where you're going to get all this IndyCar action. You're going to get, of course, Cup racing, Xfinity car racing, Truck Series racing, as well as Formula One, and all those series now winding down towards their championship battles. So point situation bigger than ever in all of these series. So make sure you guys are following at home. With that then being said, I've been Rish Kosla up here in the booth producing and, of course, commentating on the race. Apologies, there may not have been as much discussion as always, and we'll make sure to get any other production difficulties sorted out in the future. But otherwise, it's been an absolute pleasure calling this race tonight. With that, folks, I wish you all a very good night, and we'll see you in a few weeks' time at the Indianapolis 500.